Hey guys, so today I am going to be answering all of your questions about the program that I am involved in with Animal Behavior College. I made a Animal Behavior College book unboxing video a while ago when I very first started the program, and I unboxed my books, my ABC polo, some of the treats that are involved, and I got so many questions on that video, and it is by far my most viewed video of all time. It's like 3 times more popular than the one that previously held that title, which is insane and tells me that a lot of you are curious to know more about the program. So if you're just new and watching this video, hi, my name's Skylar. I've been a part of the ABC dog training program for 4 months now, and I recently graduated high school. I don't plan on going to college, and I hope to eventually be able to train service animals in the 10-year plan type deal. So I'm currently in the program, and I'm towards the end of the book work, and I will be starting all of the volunteer and externship work in the next 2 months. So that's kind of what makes me able to answer these questions. I am not a representative of the program, and there are some questions that I'm not going to be able to give the best answers to. These are all just based off of my experience and what I've figured out myself. But of course, if you have any other questions, just call them. They're super helpful. They will talk you through the whole thing. And yeah. So let's get on with the most common questions I have gotten about Animal Behavior College. So one question I get a lot is deadlines. Are there any deadlines? What happens if you don't meet those deadlines? And the deadlines are super forgiving. They give you about 2 to 3 weeks on average to complete each stage, and the stages are typically around 100 pages of work, which isn't too bad if you just work on it maybe an hour or 2 each day. And you get reminders and support from your program managers, which is kind of like a school counselor, throughout the program. So I'm not really sure what happens if you don't meet a deadline. I haven't experienced that. In fact, even with me not studying for the past month because it's been crazy, I'm still a month ahead of schedule, and my next deadline isn't for the middle of January, I think. So I haven't run into that problem. I would imagine that they're super flexible and that they would just delay the deadline but work with you one-on-one over email in order to get that done. How long does the program take? So typically what they say is that the program will take anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on your personal speed and your timeline and just how much you push yourself. So anywhere 6 months to a year, and then you will hopefully, if you pass, which you should, get your certification. Can you study more than one thing through Animal Behavior College? So they offer dog training, cat training, I think just pet grooming in general, but it might be specifically dog grooming, and I believe vet tech. So again, I'm only doing the dog training, but I personally recommend, whether you can do multiple things at once or not, only focusing on one certification at a time, just because you'll be able to get through it pretty quickly. Like I said, the program can take anywhere from 6 months to a year depending on how devoted you are to it. So if you want to get, say, 2 or 3 certifications in the course of 2 years, then focus on one, get through it at a faster pace than it's paced out already, and then you'll be able to do that. As well as once you finish, say, the dog training, then after you develop yourself a little bit more, you can apply for a stage 2 class that goes more in depth into specialization type things. But with that, you do need references from a client and from a veterinarian. So again, you have to like establish yourself to get to that point. You don't need that to go into the basic programs that I just mentioned. And people who've already gone through the program do get discounts on the tuition of everything else. So I just reiterating, one at a time, in my opinion, is the way to go. Do you have to public speak and or teach classes? So this, I believe, was in specific to the dog training program. But, of course, in any of these programs, you do need to be able to talk at least one-on-one or like three-on-one, just in a grooming or vet tech situation. With training classes, specifically I think dog, because cat group classes doesn't seem like a plausible solution. You do need to have some public speaking skills if you plan on doing group work and group classes, which is something that most people do end up getting themselves into. As far as the externship goes, you may be encouraged or required to help teach the class, public speak, be an assistant to the class. So just be prepared to teach, especially in the training career choice, because that's kind of what you're learning how to do. And as far as public speaking goes, I personally find that if I'm the one giving people information, instead of like standing up there and like talking about mayonnaise, if I'm like standing up there and giving you information that I know a lot about and that you maybe don't, so if I say something that's then I feel a lot better about that, because you're looking to me as an authority instead of looking at me and like judging me or grading me on this random speech about mayonnaise. How much does it cost? For me, I believe I ended up paying $3,020 for my tuition. It is so much cheaper than a college degree. So my tuition was $3,000. They do some specials. I know they did a special for Black Friday, and they do like a summer tuition special because that's when a lot of people don't want to be involved in school. But it was $3,000 if you didn't have to finance through them, and I thought that was a great thing. So I went ahead and I paid the $3,000 and then the $20 for the textbooks. Another question is, can you do a payment plan? So ABC themselves have their own like financing options. But what I found was if you did end up making payments, it would be, in my case, if I didn't do the summer special and if I financed, it would be around $6,000, I think it was. I think. Don't quote me on that. I think. And I thought that paying twice as much as I could for the same thing was like, if you can avoid it, obviously save the money. So thankfully I had saved up some money, and then my parents like paid the other half and I financed through my parents. Obviously I'm lucky to have that as a situation that I can do, and I was able to pay them off within like 2 months. But if you don't have that situation and you don't have the money saved up, financing through them, you still get a good deal compared to going to college, getting a degree. If you look in the grand scheme of things, you are still getting a pretty good deal. They also have military family discounts. A lot of people say that they're like military wives and they have to move all over the place, but they still want like a career. And so like that's a common thing, and if you are in that situation, they do have a ton of military discounts and they are able to help you with that. Another question I get is it all online? As I've talked about this, you may have clued in on the fact that there is an online portion and then there's an in-person portion. All of the book work you can Not spoiling. The actual stages and the learning is mostly online. You read either in a textbook or online the information, then you go and take a multiple choice test, and then an essay or essay questions, which coming out of high school I completely overthought that, but turns out they just want a few sentences showing that you know what you're talking about, so yeah, the more you know. But they do all of that online, and then there's like animal CPR and all of that jazz, and then there's volunteer work at a local shelter, training dogs to make them more adoptable, training cats to make them more adoptable. I would assume for grooming dogs, make them more adoptable. You kind of getting the theme here. And then you go on to an externship, which basically means that you go to someone, somewhere, business, person, whatever, fairly locally to you that either went through the ABC program or have been approved by ABC to then continue on with some hands-on guided learning. So it's both online and in person. And yeah. Do you have textbooks? Yes, I personally do. I decided to spend the crazy $20 to get my 2 textbooks. There's 9 stages and they're split up 5 in one book, 4 in the other. You can also access them online, and so you don't even need to buy the textbooks. That you can access the. You don't even need to buy the textbooks. You can just access them online and do it that way. I personally like to be able to write in the margins and highlight things that I find important, and it just personally makes it easier for me to reference later on. So that was my choice. $20 well spent. And later on, you get to keep your textbooks, you get to keep your login for the website, so you can always reference even the online textbooks and do it that way. When do you meet with a trainer? So like I said before, you meet with the trainer after you've gone through all of the stages and the pet CPR, and then you meet with the trainer that you're then going to do the externship with. Somebody asked, how much do you make? And this can be a little bit tricky to answer. If you're a dog groomer or a vet tech, usually you're going to be working in a business, or I guess if you're a dog groomer, you can be running your own business. Most businesses do pay an hourly rate, a flat rate, whatever. They have an amount of money, and that's how much money you get paid. For the dog training, it can really depend on if you're working for yourself, if you're working for someone else, if you're working for a big company, if you're working for like a locally owned small business, if you are working full-time, part-time, if you, I don't know, whatever. There's a lot of variables. So you could be working at some big chain pet store and maybe making $15 an hour, and you work part-time. So say 20 hours a week, $15 an hour, there you go. Steady income. Whereas if you're on your own, say you work 5 hours a week, you have 5. Whereas if you're on your own, say you charge $50 for an hour private lesson or private training session, and you have 5 people lined up for that week. You're only working 5 hours a week, but you're making $250 in that week. So it really depends. Ultimately, people do tend to make more money on their own just because you don't have the business that you're having to pay. But you also have to fight a little bit harder for clientele. So I didn't answer that question really. It's a hard question to answer, and ultimately it's up to you to decide. Choose your own adventure. And then another question I got is, what's the difference between getting a certification through Animal Behavior College, or say going to a chain pet store and becoming a trainer there. I obviously don't know what it's like in other states, and I'm thinking maybe the person who asked this question didn't look into the answer beforehand at all, or look into those options, because from what I've understood and what I've read and how things are for me, so based off the limited research that I've done about potentially working as a trainer in a bigger pet store, I believe that you do need a training certification and experience before you work there. They don't do on-the-job training for animal training, dog training, because you need a certification to practice anyway, and you would need a trainer to train you, and that's more work than most big companies are willing to do. So if you are wanting to work in a big chain pet store, I recommend getting the certification this way. It's fast, it's easy, it's cheap, and going on from there. So there's that. And the last question I am going to cover is one that was actually asked by someone that I do know. So I'm going to tailor the answer to this specifically to this scenario, and I will go ahead and give you the scenario. The question asks, my 17-year-old son is interested in going into this career. What should he be doing in high school to kind of prepare him for this? So honestly, kind of whatever. Personally, in high school, I was a huge band kid. I took a bunch of music classes. I also took honors biology my freshman year. My school offered a zoology class my junior year. So to this person in particular, I don't know what grade you are. If you're a junior, I recommend trying to take zoology next year because it was super fun and I still have a baby shark in a jar from that class. But if you're a senior, then like whatever. But I took biology, zoology, and anatomy and physiology. And I haven't needed to use any of that previous knowledge in order to get through in this program. So anything that you need to know about specifically dogs for the dog training program, they cover in the book. So all of the common illnesses, how to like treat those illnesses, different like parasites and infections, and a little bit of dog anatomy and the history of the breeds and all of that stuff is covered. So I haven't needed to use any of my prior knowledge from taking specialized classes in high school in order to do well in this course. Obviously, I've always loved animals, so I gravitated towards more animal-y classes that were offered. And I do believe that some of those give me a little bit of a better understanding on like a really scientific level. But as far as like the base level that you need to be an animal trainer, we were good. If you are planning on being a vet tech, I would definitely recommend maybe doing zoology and anatomy and physiology, at least anatomy and physiology, because you're going to have to take that anyway. Like if you go to college and do it that way, whatever, but basically mammals are mammals and they have extremely similar body structures. So in high school, I recommend taking anatomy if you're doing vet tech. If you're doing training or grooming, do whatever you want, become a well-rounded individual, do a bunch of art classes because they're fun, and don't stress yourself out too much. So that is all for this video. I know it was a little bit of a long one, but I'm hoping that I was able to answer all the questions that were given to me and some of the questions that you may have. If you're interested in joining this program and if you have any other questions, let me know in the comments. I've been really good about getting back to those comments and answering those questions, which is why some of these answers seem a little bit familiar. But go ahead, leave those down below. If I don't know, just call them, find out for yourself. Put on your, I don't know, you just figure it out. It'll be fine. So please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Oof. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below to stay up to date with all of my content. And if you guys didn't know already and you didn't see the introduction to my Vlogmas extravaganza, I'm doing a fundraiser for everybody affected by the campfire in Paradise, California. So if you would like to donate, the link is in the description below. And if you can't donate, please share the link on social media, in your own YouTube videos, family, friends, whatever. And hopefully we'd be able to meet our goal and get some money raised for them this holiday season. So I will see you all tomorrow to continue on with the Vlogmas fundraiser series thing.